there, Stampers. This is Sherry Roth from Stamped Treasures. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada. And I am here today to share with you a fun card and envelope created from a 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper. And this is going to be like a little pocket card. So you can tuck a gift card in here, a message, you could add a couple tags in there, a small little gift, and then we've got a matching envelope as well, all created from one piece of pattern paper. And I am using the Painterly Pears DSP, which is an online exclusive paper from Stampin' Up! These are the papers here. So this one, we've got this one with a beautiful pink background, this one with a nice open. This would be a gorgeous background for a scrapbook layout. Love this one. It feels so retro to me. I love this DSP so much. This is the one I used on the sample. And then this is the one that we're going to use today in the video. And then let me flip them over. So the back side. So you've got some really busy patterns on one side, and then you've got some that you can kind of mix and match to kind of tone down that busyness. And I do want to point out this pattern paper, there is a bundle that goes with it. So Perfectly Pears is part of the selection. There's also some embellishments and some ribbon that goes with it. But these dies, so this die will cut out the pears. This die will cut out the duo of pears. This will cut out the flowers, and this die will cut out the leaves. So on this paper, most of these things will be cut out using dies. You don't need to fussy cut unless you want to use these little yellow flowers, then you can fussy cut those. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am throwing in some other products as well, but I will mention those as I go along. Okay, so this is the pattern we're going to use today. And we're going to start by cutting our pattern paper down. Okay, if it's directional, you want it going in the right direction, and you're going to cut it at 4 inches so that you have a 4 by 12 inch piece. Okay, and then we're going to set that aside, and then we're going to slide this over, and we're going to cut it at 6 3/4. So 6 3/4. This piece we're not going to use. We're going to rotate this and cut it at 9 and, can't read my writing here, 9 1/4. I hope that's right. Okay, and this piece we aren't going to use either. So those two pieces you can set aside. We will go ahead and we're going to do our scoring while we've got our paper trimmer out. Okay, so this is going to be our envelope, and we're going to have the short end at the top, and we're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And remember, this is pattern paper, so you don't want to push too hard. So 1/2 inch, we're going to rotate it all the way around and score it at 1/2 inch on this side. Okay, and then go ahead and score it at 3 inches. So it doesn't matter. Okay, 3 inches and 7 1/4. Okay, so we're going to set that piece aside. We'll bring this in. Okay, so for this one, it does matter. All right, so we want our 2 inch flap at the bottom, and we want to make sure our pears are going in the right direction. So if we're folding this up, okay, so we want the top of our pattern paper on the left-hand side. We're going to score it at 2 inches. And then we're going to rotate it or move it down and score at 7 1/2 inches. So then when we fold it, it's going to be folded like that. So the front of our card, the pears are going the right direction. The back of the card, they're going upside down, but the back of the card isn't as important. Okay, we can slide our paper trimmer aside, and we're going to start, we'll just create our card first. So we're going to grab a bone folder, and we'll just fold along these score lines, making sure that they line up nicely. So pretty. Okay, and we're going to create our pocket first. So I'm just going to use some multi-purpose glue and put a narrow bead of adhesive up this side and this side. So this is the shorter flap. This is going to go at the bottom to create our pocket. Okay, and then we're going to set that aside. I'm going to put an ink pad on top of it just to let that set. Okay, and then on the inside of our card, we've got a 3.5 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white cardstock. That's going to be our insert, so we can write our message on it. And we're going to use some crumb cake ink and kind of go around the edges with a blending brush just to soften it. I wanted to give this card a little bit of a vintage feel. The paper already has kind of a vintage feel to it. Okay, so we've got that. And then I've gone ahead and I've die cut 2 of these label shapes. Now this is using a product that is not yet available. So it's called the Peaceful Greenery dies. And these are going to be in the September to December mini catalog. So as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, that's one of the perks, is we get to get some product, get our hands on product a little bit early. So I've used these 2 dies here. If you don't have these dies and you want to recreate a card similar to this, then any kind of nesting label dies will work. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to go around the edges on both of these with some of this crumb cake ink. Okay. All right. Now we're going to do a little bit of stamping on this. So this is where I'm going to bring in a different stamp set. I absolutely love this Elements of Text stamp set. This is another online exclusive. It has been available for a little while now, but it is great for adding just a little bit of texture to the back of to the background pieces on your projects. So we are going to use this splatter stamp and this scripty stamp. So I'm going to take this and some crumb cake ink. Actually, no, I was going to use yellow for this. I'm going to use some Darling Duckling, which is the color of cardstock I'm using. And I'm just going to ink up just the top portion. I want to stamp it off. And then I'm going to take this and just kind of stamp on the side here. And then ink it again, stamp off. And I'm not worried about getting the whole thing. I just want a little bit of those words on there. And then we're going to bring in some Secret C, which is the background color on this DSP. I love that the Stampin' Up! Products coordinate. We're going to take this splatter stamp and we're going to stamp this in a couple areas. So we'll do it there, maybe a little bit down here, and then some up here. All right. Actually, we can leave this out. I have gone ahead and I've used this label shape die to die cut that shape from a piece of white cardstock. And I am going to use the Just a Note greeting from the Beautiful Motif stamp set. I love this greeting because then you can use the card for anything. And I actually have a purpose for this card that is not, it's not going to actually be used as a card. And I will share that with you later this month. So I wanted a generic greeting to put on there. Okay, so we've got that, we've got that. I think we can slide this aside now. We've got our pieces. Now I've done a little bit more die cutting. Let me show you what I've got here in my little tray. So I've taken the pear dies, and from this pattern paper, I've gone ahead and I've cut a pear and a leaf, okay? And then from the dies, I cut this piece from Mossy Meadow cardstock, and you can see that it's not exactly as is because we're gonna trim it apart. So I trimmed this off to use on my sample. I just wanted a couple leaves. I didn't want all of them. So we're gonna do that again this time for this card. We're just going to take this and we're going to snip this and we're going to use that. And then the other thing that I did was I die cut this strip of flowers. So I've got some of these little pink, petal pink flowers, which is one of the colors in the pattern paper. Okay, so those are the things that I've die cut that we're going to use. We can bring our card back and start assembling. Now I am going to, oh, actually before we do that, we are going to take some ribbon. So I've got this beautiful petal pink scalloped ribbon. This is from, I think actually this might be retiring. I think it might be on the last chance list. Don't quote me on that. But I seem to remember it being on the last chance list. We're just going to cut about a 4-inch strip. I cut it a little bit longer, and then we're going to cut it in half because we don't need to cut it in half. We could let's just stick it on like that. I really just want one scallop, like one side of the scallop showing. And I'm going to use some multi-purpose glue, or not multi-purpose glue, some seal adhesive. So just a roll-on adhesive, and as close to the edge as I can. I'm going to roll that on there. And then there is a right and a wrong side to this ribbon. Just going to adhere this on here. I'm not going to push it down yet. I want to make sure that it's straight. Not quite straight. So that we've got that beautiful scalloped edge on there. Isn't that pretty? So pretty. And then I'll take my ribbon scissors and just snip up the edge here. Okay, and this is what I was worried about. It's a little sticky along here. I might use my embossing buddy just to get rid of that stickiness on there, just so it doesn't stick my card closed. So this is a great way to get rid of that stickiness. Okay. All right. So now we've got just a little bit of a transition or a separation in there, which looks so pretty. I love it. We can tuck this in here. I did not do any stamping on here, but of course you could. That just slides in there for your message. Okay, now let's start to assemble. Now you could pop this up using dimensionals, but I am going to put it flat because like I said, I've got a different purpose for this card. And I don't want too much dimension on it. And we're gonna pop that on there like that. And then this is gonna go on flat as well. Okay, and then we're gonna bring in our pear. And what I like to do with these pears is I like to slit the top. So I'm just gonna grab my take your pick tool with my X-Acto knife or my blade on it. And right at the top of the pear, so about, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch down from the pear, I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife. I guess it's not an X-Acto knife because X-Acto is a brand, my blade, and just create a little slit. And then before we do anything else, we're gonna take our blending brush and just go around the edges just to soften that little bit of white. We'll do that on our leaf as well. Give it the same kind of look as the other pieces that we've added to our card so far. You don't have to get them all. Okay, and then this is just going to slide into this slit like that. And there's our pear. I will flip it over and we're going to add some dimensionals to this. And I'm going to be generous with my dimensionals. So I'll add a couple pieces on here. I'll add one on here. This will hold that in place. And then a few more on here. We'll do that. And we'll maybe add one more on here. You normally wouldn't necessarily need to add this many dimensionals, but the purpose that I have, it will probably be handled just a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna put that on there like that. So so cute. I love this collection so much. This is actually the collection that Laura and I are using for this month's class to go. So if you love this collection as well, I will post a link in the description below where you can find more details on how to participate in the class to go. I can ship anywhere in Canada. And if you live outside of Canada, there is a tutorial option. Okay, so this is going to go on here like that. Okay, and then we're going to bring in our leaves. And I'm just going to use my fingers just to curl up those leaves just a little bit. And then I'll add a little bit of adhesive to the base. I'll pop that on there. And then we're going to bring in our little flowers. You can use mini glue dots for this. I'm just going to take a little bit of multi-purpose glue, go around the edges, and we're going to add 3 of these little flowers on here. And then one more. Isn't that pretty? Okay, and then we're going to finish it off with some of the coordinating gems. So these are the low profile sparkle dots. They match this pattern paper. So we've got Secret Sea, there is a green, and then there's a yellow. And we're going to use the yellow. We'll add one to the center of this flower. And then maybe one more up here. Yeah, we're going to stick with that. All right, so there is our card with our insert. And then here's the other one. So this one, obviously I used different pattern paper from the same paper pack. This one, all the pears on this piece of paper were green. And because the pears were more orange and yellow on this one, I used Darling Duckling and Calypso Coral ink, and I used the stamp and my blending brush to ink the stamp because I wanted a softer look, and then used Early Espresso and Mossy Meadow on the leaves. And I just did this stamp and this stamp. This is a 2-step stamp, so you can stamp the outline image over top if you want, but I was looking for a little bit more of a softer look. I didn't want that outline image, so that is how this one differs. And then of course some of the colors for the layering differs, and then there's the inside. Okay, now let's go on to the envelope. Okay, so one thing I noticed after I made the card and the envelope, this is a lot of the same pattern. I'm not too worried about it because I'm gonna use both of them separately. But for this one, we're gonna flip it over, and this is gonna be the outside because I think this will be stunning. I love the contrast of it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold along the score lines, just making sure that these layers all match up. Okay, and then these 1/2 inch lines here. Okay, and now we need to do some trimming. So this is going to be the bottom, and this is going to be the top. So it worked out that our pears are going the right way. Maybe I do want to do this. No, we're going to do it this way. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what direction if you're going to flip it over and use the other side. So what we're going to do is here, so this is the 2-inch flap. We're going to take this and trim about 1/8 of an inch to the right of that score line, and then rotate it. We're going to go at about 1/8 of an inch to the left of this score line, and we're going to angle cut it so that comes out. So you can see that's a little bit of an angle, and this is a little bit of an angle. And then we're going to repeat that on this side. So now we've got the short flap on the right. We're going to go about 1/8 of an inch to the left of this score line, and about 1/8 of an inch to the right of this score line. and angle cut that. Okay, and then here we're gonna do the same thing. So now the wider flap is on the right, and we're gonna do an 1/8 of an inch to the left. And then again, an 1/8 of an inch. This is gonna be a little bit less of an angle just because it's a longer strip. I just feel like when you cut it at an angle, it gives it a nice look. And it also helps reduce some of the bulk. Now we've got the wider end on the left, and we're gonna go to an 1/8 of an inch to the right of this score line. Rotate it, and an 1/8 of an inch to the left, and angle cut it. Okay, so now we've got our pieces here. Now these pieces are gonna go in, and this piece is gonna go up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add adhesive to this side and this side, and fold this up. So this is a great way to create a coordinating envelope and use up some of the pattern paper. As paper crafters, we kind of tend to hoard our pattern paper, right? So this is a great way to use up almost an entire sheet. So you've got a couple little scraps left here. You could create another card. You could also create a belly band to go around this if you wanted to use this piece. So that's another way that you can use it. I have used the scraps from this card on another project, which again is going to go along with how I'm using this, that I'll share later this month. And I will come back, and once I've shared the other idea, I will come back and I'll link it in the description. And there is our envelope. So when you go to use this, you'll just want to add some adhesive along there. And if you are mailing the card, it can be mailed. You'll just want to put a label. Actually, although this is pretty light, you could write on there as well. All right, but there is our card and matching envelope. Isn't that cute? So fun. And then here's the other one. So you could create lots of these using one paper pack and just recreate them over and over and over. It didn't take very long to do. They're fun to make and they're beautiful. All right, so I will include a full supply list in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you are not yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.